Hi, my name is James Barney,
And I'm Zach Wolf.
and today we are joined by the one and the only Bill Bricker. Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Bill. I'm a Todd fanatic. That's the story I generally tell. My name is Bill Bricker. I have been a Todd fan since October 16th, 1974, because that was my first rock concert. It happened to be Todd Rundgren. I had bounced around music and radio and AM, FM, didn't really own any records. I was 16. I didn't have any money. And a friend of mine that I met at the pool up in Cuyahoga Heights in Cleveland said, "Here, listen to this." And he puts on, Just One Victory. And I was like, okay, let's do that. And then Todd's coming to town with Utopia, so we go to Utopia show. And in general, the lights went down and the oxygen left the room and was replaced with a substance that I think everybody probably had a contact high. It was no way to be in that arena and not be affected. I think maybe it did warp my brain a little bit. I knew, hello, it's me. I saw the light. I could identify a couple of songs from AWATS because my friend played it for me, but the rest of the music, nothing. I never heard it before. Didn't matter. It was his personality. It was the music. It was the experience. And it, just changed my life. So I had this idea that I would draw Todd and then take the picture to a show, and that would be my in backstage. I'd say, "Hey, I've drawn this picture. I want to get an autograph." And that ultimately happened, but it took 9 years. So I had been to dozens of shows, had dozens of drawings, and when I finally did meet him, we went to Durham, North Carolina. It was a benefit concert at a college stadium where Todd was the headliner. It was Grandmaster Flash, the producers, U2 doing the very first performance of the War concert in the United States, and then Todd Rundgren following that. And Bono was up on the stage waving a flag. He climbed the rafters. It was incredible. And I told my friend, well, I'm going to go. I'm not going to take no for an answer now. I'm going backstage. I'm taking my portfolio with me, and you will never see me again until I finish this.
Yeah, because at that point, after 9 years, you have a portfolio of top pictures.
A portfolio. And he was soaking wet. It had been raining. He was talking to Bono, who was talking about changing the world with music. And Todd was like, yeah, kind of been there, done that, but you go. And then I got time with him, and he just looked at every piece and he commented on every piece. And I shook his hand and said, I want you to know that your music has reached me 100%. And then by the time I got back to my friend who was waiting for me, I realized I had achieved my life's goal. It was like 25. And I didn't know what was going to happen next. I had no idea. But what I realized was for that 9 years, I was mad at the world because they didn't know who Todd was. And I would always want to tell people, educate them. And I was really had a bad attitude, chip on my shoulder about it. But when I met him, somehow this feeling resonated in me about if there's a message to Todd's music, it's that there's more to life than Todd Rundgren. And that's why everybody can tap into that. And what you bring to, what you put into it, what you hear, what you think, what you feel, that's all you. I mean, Todd packs the music with all sorts of things. He has his reasons why he does it. But the power happens when you inject yourself into it, and it's your interpretation, and it's always, all about get off your butt and do something. So at around the same time as I saw this is 83, I entered into a relationship with Ruth Rundgren, Todd's mom. Ruth had been doing a fanzine, just very, very low key. I mean, just like they would literally get 8 pages and photocopy it and mail it to their friends. It's called the Utopia Times. And when I found out she was doing it, I wrote her a letter. I could have put a couple pieces of artwork in there. And the way that I was responded to, what I got back was the next issue of the Utopia Times with my art on the front and the back. And this kicked off a whole series of, for, 3 years. I really pretty much did about every other cover for this quarterly publication. And we would go up to Media, Pennsylvania. She had these things called GARFs, Get Acquainted and Renew Friendship. So maybe about anywhere from 30 to 50 fans would get together and pal around with Ruth. And it was very just open and free, and everybody trusted everyone, and I trusted everyone. And we had this plan to make the Utopia Times the official fan club. Ruth was, she wasn't totally into that. She really liked, it started where Bearsville was closing the New York office, and they had all these letters that people would write to Todd and the band with incredible stories. And she said, no, don't throw them away, send them to me. And she started reading them, and she responded individually to specific people until it very quickly got to a point where she couldn't maintain that. So she started this newsletter to just kind of globally pick and highlight things, and different editors would come and go putting the material together. So we had this plan. We had 5 people. And in our last meeting, the person who was there was the editor, there was me, who was lined up to do layout and covers and merchandising. There were organizational people, and there was a person who handled the database, the mailing list. And she didn't come to the last meeting. And then we came to find out that the reason she didn't come was that she went to Eric Gardner, Todd's manager, on her own and solidified the deal. And at that point, effectively, Ruth and I and anyone that didn't meet her standards was kicked out of the fan club. I was still a member. I still, paid my dues, and I got my issues. And then Ruth and I went on to do a thing called Touchstone, which was, the UT changed directions with the Nexus. It kind of went to like, this is the band, these are the tours, these are the band interviews. And it was very directed at something vital for the fans. They needed to know this. They didn't, the publications didn't happen. This started in '85. And for 10 years, that was the source for what's Todd up to. And in the meantime, Ruth and I started a thing called Touchstone, which was the more deep and cerebral things that she was interested in. And then it evolved that she wanted to tell her story about Todd, and I wanted to find the 100,000 Todd fans they supposedly said. He had 100,000 fans. And then they do things, I don't know if you know this, about the Faithful album. When they released Faithful, they said, we're not going to do any promo. We're just going to let the fans tell it. And they proved it, that they didn't have to do any promo, and the fans found it anyway. So my idea, and this is around 1990, was get the names and addresses of the fans. And then Todd could mail a postcard to them saying, I'm doing an album, send me $10, send me $20. You have 100,000 fans, you've got an operating budget that's crazy. You can produce an album, and who needs a record company? Utopia Times would not advertise that. They didn't really grok with Touchstone. They didn't like that I was doing things with Ruth. They kind of treated me like I didn't exist for 7 years. It just torture for me. It was just absolute torture. And I felt like my heart had been cut out of this that I thought was my life's mission. So, but here's where the thing turned up. And after 7 years, the Utopia had been disbanded for that time. They had the Redux tour, and they had the Redux tour concert t-shirt contest. And it was clear to me that my submission would never be approved or seen, but I sent 3 things off, and I didn't think about it. I'm doing, by this time it's 92, 91, 92, I'm doing my first Rolling Stone project where I'm collecting names from fans and buying as big an ad as I can. Rolling Stone, trying to do Todd Data. So we wrote to Eric and we said, hey, trying to do Todd Data, there's the concept, what do you think about that? I'm collecting money from fans for getting their name in Rolling Stone in a Todd ad, and we're really frustrated with the fan club not, advertising our things. And he said, talk to Todd about the idea. He doesn't want to make offer to fans. Of course, Eric is deep into the record industry, so he doesn't want to, bypass the label. He said, we don't have any involvement with Utopia Times. They ask information, we give it to them. But we don't stop them from what you're doing. You can do the thing in Rolling Stone. We won't help you. We won't stop you. And then P.S., your shirt designs looked great. So that was the first indicator that was kind of a victory right there, the fact that he saw him, but I thought he was throwing me a bone. Lo and behold, I won. I heard I won. Someone called me and said, hey, I heard, you must have a big head. And I said, for what? What are you talking about? Well, you won the contest. I'm like, what contest? The Utopia Redux contest. And
was this like a phone call or
phone call from a friend in Chicago who heard about it through the network? But I didn't know what design. So the tour happens. This starts in California, goes to Japan. Mm-hmm. And after the first California show, someone called me up and said, yes, I know it was your design. I saw it. I'd seen it before. But then he said there was a better shirt. And I was like, how was there a better shirt if I won the contest? And he said, it's a circle and a square and a triangle with a 92 in the middle and Redux around. I said, well, I did that one too. So 2 of the 3 designs I had sent were taken on tour. And I did get my autographed T-shirts. That was the deal. You get autographed T-shirts if you win the contest. Got that. And then the next thing that happened was Don Brown from Rhino Records called me and said, hey, we want to use the logo, on the packaging. I'm like, what do you want? I just want logo by Bill Bricker. It's all I've ever wanted was that. So months go by and I'm in a record store and I see Utopia Redux and I pick it up and I turn it over and there's the logo. And I open it up and no credit.
Okay.
So I tried to call Eric. I tried to call Don. I tried to call anyone. I couldn't. And I went to a lawyer and I said, what can I do here? And they said, no, this is copyright violation and you can sue them. And my friends were like, you're going to sue Todd Rundgren? And I said, I kind of have to. But finally I got a call from Rhino and they said, we wanted to know what happened. Here's what happened. The logo is on the CD without the credit, but it was supposed to go on the video. So, but the video says logo by Bill Bricker without a logo, and the CD says the logo but doesn't have the credit. And I figured, and they would, they promised to fix it. So I had 2 very big life-changing epiphanies here. And coincidentally, this is, saw Todd in 74, met him in 83, now it's 92, 9 years, and I have this other transformation where I realized if I had remained, in the organization as I wanted, I never would have entered the contest. I would have recused myself. I never would have entered. So in order to win, I had to be kicked out. So that was an interesting little turn. But even bigger than that, I just looked at the situation, and what I had was what I knew. Here's the president of the fan club, and I know what happened, but no one else does. But I know that they aren't really tight with Todd. I know that they aren't tight with Eric. They just do what they do. People send the information, but it all seems like this very empty kind of existence. And here's me on the other side, where the person that I revere just above all others has picked my art, but no one can know. And at that moment, I decided, and I have ever since, I would rather be the guy who knows the truth and no one else can know. And it just, peace broke out throughout the land. And now I no longer wanted people to listen to Todd if they didn't want to, or I didn't want Todd fans to understand whatever he was about. It really didn't matter anymore. I'm a fan, and fans come in all shapes and sizes. And things went out and grew after that, and different things happened throughout the years. But that's essentially my story. When bad things happen, you don't know why, and you have to not lose faith. You need to just try to get your ego out of it. You have to realize that there might be something down the road that's going to make this make sense, or maybe it won't. I don't know. But I just continued to go and draw and do, and great things have happened. And then, geez, I guess it's been 15 years that Run Good Radio has been going.
Mhm.
So I did 20 years of Something Anything in 92. I did 30 years of Todd the album in 2004. Then I did 30 years of Something Anything, and maybe it was around the time I was doing 30 years of Something Anything, Doug Ford starts up, and he says, hey, I'm doing this thing. It's a blog talk radio thing, and I want you to be the first guest, and we'll test that. End up doing a logo for him, end up doing many, many designs for him, and he's provided me many opportunities, not the least of which is the best piece of art I ever made. One of the things that happened in there was Todd decided to do Toddstock the first time, and this is 2008, his 60th birthday. I got invited to the party. It's like, how can I go to Hawaii? But my friends convinced me I could. And then Todd opened it up and said, you send me $300 and you can camp on my property and we'll feed you the whole time. And went and did that. And that was the first Run Good Radio interview with Todd. It was at his house in Kauai. So Doug loved that. And then we came back, and it was this big, like, what could top that? A week at Todd's house in Kauai. And then that's when A Wizard or True Star happened live.
09, yeah.
Okay, that's 09. And then you'll find the art for that. I call it Rainbow AWATS. Very popular shirt, very popular design. Some people think it's John Lennon. I started with a picture of Todd. In the glasses is the shaving face Todd from The Wizard or True Star inside, notes. If you look at the glasses carefully, you'll see the little Todd shaving face there. And that's the reflecting in the past. So it was a mature drawing of Todd. You can see the gray in his sideburns, and, he's got his goatee, and there's a little age in his face. And the rainbow hair and the glasses, and then we did the swirl. If you go, I'll send you a link. We can show you where all the different variant rainbow versions that we tried before it turned into the swirl. So then the next year, 2010, it turns into Todd and Healing, which Doug said on Saturday. I found out, he said, first he thought that was a stupid idea, but it turned out to be a fantastic show. Mm-hmm. And he commissioned me to draw something for that. How do you draw that? So I need to jump back to the early 80s. I knew there was an album coming out. We thought it was called The Healer. And I had this dream where out of this nebulous cloud, this entity comes out of the cloud, robed, open palmed like Jesus, but he has a mask on, and he's coming after me, and he says, take off the mask, take off the mask, take off the mask. And I'm running and screaming and hiding, and I can't. And I finally take the mask off, and it's me. So, and I thought for all these years it was Todd in that dream. It's like, no, it's kind of always been me. That's, I am the tormentor, I am the savior, based on what I do, how I interpret and incorporate the lyrics into my life. And so I started with that. We had a caduceus, which is it's a staff, a winged staff, and entwined snakes. Take out the staff and put in, the demigod, Toddicus. The snakes are yin and yang, and they turn into a DNA strand. And on the nucleotides of the DNA strand are piano keys. Uh-huh. So the message is music will transform you from the DNA up. And so we did the ad for the tour. And then at some point, I had developed at Toddstock, I developed a relationship with Michelle, and I had her email, so I just sent her the design and said, hey, I think this is pretty good, what do you think? And she's like, oh, we've got to do that. we got to put that on the shirts, and we made a deal, and so I was compensated for the shirt sales, and it's the best piece of art I've ever made. There's nothing that comes close to it, because it's great that it's Todd, but it's not Todd. And the way I do the presentation now, I call it I am Toddicus, and you are Toddicus. You are the source of your own musical life and how you ascend through the transitions that you need to go through. It's all based on your focus and energy and your internal drive, and focus is everything. What you get focused on, what you see. And it took me a long, long time to get into that, because when I was kicked out of the fan club, all I could see was my life is gone. I was 30. I, didn't know what I was going to do, what I was supposed to do. And then 7 years later, it turns out, wow, this is pretty good. You can do something. And then the other one in 2011, it was the reproduction album.
Mm-hmm.
Contest. I really wasn't plugged into it. I did a submission. I didn't think it was horrible. Didn't think it was great. And someone put out this piece of art that was an egg and sperms, and put Todd Ringer reproduction on it. Yep. And that was the winner. We thought, yeah, that seems worthy. But Doug Ford said, no, it shouldn't be sperms. It should be microphones. And I said, well, it shouldn't be an egg. It should be like the earth or something. And then the way it turned out, I got an email from Mitch Kalaris, who was the guy who put that program together, the reproduction program together. And he said, hey, I want you to send me high res of your stuff so we can include you in the also rans. And I said, okay. And he goes, and we don't know what's going to happen with the cover. We ran into a snag. And I started thinking about it, like, what does that mean? And I realized, what I did, I went to Google, I typed in sperm and egg and images, and in the first field, there was that image. So it had been sort of just, co-opted from an existing thing, and they couldn't use that. So I kind of went, well, let me draw what we talked about. And I didn't use the earth, I used the sun. I incorporated the circle, square, triangle in that, and put that all together and sent it in. But they said, oh, well, thanks for doing that. That looks great. But I found out, Michelle told me, they picked some other piece of art for it. And I was like, okay, fine, I tried. Then when the CD came out, a friend of mine called me up and said, I just got the advanced release on this, and it's like, you're on the cover, on the back, on the CDs, everything. The art is used completely throughout. Great. And the promise at that point was, when and if they tour, I would get a premium shirt deal. But they never toured the album, so that one never happened. But that's one, I call it Cosmic Music Conception. And again, that's my art, that's my idea. I own that, and when I move forward, I'm just divesting myself of all the drawings and everything, and moving forward with not drawing Todd, not using his face. I have to start promoting my own. If I didn't create it, I don't push it out.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at right now. But I am, in closing things out, we can say I'm doing the 50th anniversary of Something Anything, and this is the latest. Another cool story. I had done the logo for 40 years of Something Anything. It was basically the rose in a circle.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't want me to do merchandise. They don't like it. They would rather that I just collect money and buy the ad. So I did that. A few people have that first design.
I don't think I've seen that before, actually.
It didn't get propagated back then, because I just went to a straight, you pay money, your name's in the ad, and that's it. And I included album covers and all that.
I have this, but I've never seen the 40 before.
Okay, that's that the 30th?
It's the 40th.
That's the 40th. Okay. Yeah. So that's 40 years of Todd and Rolling Stone.
Oh, okay.
Right. After that, then came 40 years of Something Anything was after that one.
Oh, okay. All right, sure.
Okay? It's confusing. You could do the anniversary of every album, and you could do something every month. But what I did for that, I
Oh, that's
I had
this.
an opportunity to advertise really quickly at the end of last year, and I knew I was going to do it this year. I couldn't ignore 50 years of something anything. If he hadn't done something anything, he couldn't have turned left. He wouldn't have made a Wizard or True Star had he not tried the commercial line and decided that was not for him. So it's very critical that that album exists, and it still, makes the top 500 albums of all time. So I resurrected the logo. I put a 5 at the front of it, and I posted on Run Gun Radio. And then Fernando Perdomo said, "Wow!" And I didn't know this. This is in September. He said, "I'm redoing the whole album live. We've got Marshall Crenshaw. We've got Carole King's daughter. We've got Britt Bourgeois. We're just recreating the whole album live." And he wanted to use that logo on the cover, and I was like, "Okay." So now it's not really a Todd cover, but it's an album cover with that logo. And so I felt very gratified when, Carole King is posting that on her Facebook page saying, "Hey, check this out. My daughter sings I Saw the Light." So that will be the focus for the ad that we run. And I've got, I don't know, I've lost count of names. I probably got, I don't know. I still want to add names. I still feel like, you can get in for $5, and it's a little confusing because the address is sa50.rocks. That's it.
Yep.
It's not
Yep.
.com. It's sa50.rocks. And people tell me, how do I get there? It's like, we just type that in your browser and you get there.
Mhm.
And then it starts and it just spells out what the levels are. And I've got like virtual seats for $5, and it goes up to like a Rock Hall of Fame section for $500. And so the more you spend, the higher up your name is, and the bigger it is, and it's just a big tribute
Okay.
like everybody else does.
Okay.
And then I did do merch this time. I'm adding gifts for each gift level gets a different thing. There's a pin.
Yeah, I
There's a
saw the
one-
pin. I'm in love with the pin.
Yeah, the pin's
the
really
pin
cool.
is there, and I just set it up. I set it up so that everything, when you try and finally channel it down, and it's on the website itself, if you put in WIB50 code at the end, it'll take 50% off whatever level you're at. Because I'm still collecting. I still need a little bit more money to really get flush on this. But everything I do, everything I sold this weekend, everything that I do, it goes to the ad. If there's any money left over, I just give it to Todd.
Or Spirit of Harmony.
But however they want to channel it, it's like
Yeah.
none of this. I don't make any profit off of any of it.
Yeah.
Because I love the music and I love the fans. I believe in the fans, and I think we need a venue for this. It just frustrates me that everybody knows that nobody knows who Todd Rundgren is. It frustrates me as a fan. He's fine with it. He is cool with it. He knows. He makes his choices. He makes his bed.
Yeah.
He's gonna play until he can't play anymore, and God bless him for it.
Yeah, I think that I struggle with that too, because it's been quite literally my entire life.
Yeah.
I, much like you, my first Todd show was my first show that I'd ever been to. I was
Sure.
3 or 4 years old, and I saw him do the with the Twist tour.
Okay.
But even
Good.
before that, I don't know if
Right.
you ever heard our story.
No.
Yeah,
Tell me.
but my first word was Todd. The first word that came out of my mouth was Todd. The first letter that I could speak was R, because in the mid '90s he was the artist formerly known as TRI.
Okay.
And so this is quite literally my entire life. And I remember the day after the show, and there's more story to that
You're like
show.
3 years old and you remember the show? That's incredible.
It was easily one of my earliest memories.
Mhm.
I was on my dad's shoulders the entire night. Okay, but back up a little bit. So I was in pre-K, I think that's what they call it.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents brought me to Bogart, Cincinnati. That's where I'm from, Cincinnati. And said, "Okay, Jamie," because I was Jamie when I was small. Just so you know, we're going to this thing, and no matter what, you have school tomorrow. Okay, and it was a complete surprise. Complete surprise.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, so no matter what happens, you have school tomorrow and you have to go, trying to set precedent. Respect that. So I go. I'm on my dad's shoulders. I'm tall, as you may remember. My dad was also tall, or still is tall, I guess. And I was always on his shoulder the entire night. And the the stage was all tikied out, right? Remember that?
Right.
And
That was incredible live.
I'm sure. I remember in pieces, and we'll talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah.
But my dad says that we came in, they were at the bar, and I just start going, Todd. Okay. And my dad goes, damn, he's on to us. And then sure enough, here comes Todd. He's out. He's doing the old tiki lounge thing, and he's got the vibe. And I remember it very well. For some reason, I just remember it very well. Almost to the point you may remember this show in particular. He wouldn't leave the stage until everybody left the lounge. So I even remember him coming out with the black 12-string acoustic and playing Cliche because people weren't leaving the stage. And when you're 2.5 hours into the set, you come out and you play Cliche. Somebody came up to my mom because she was at the bar, and they're like, is that you, or is that your son on that tall guy's shoulders there? And she goes, yeah, that's my kid. And they're like, Todd would be really interested in meeting him after the show. Okay. Very exciting stuff.
Oh no, I know where this goes.
Yeah, Zach knows where this goes. He's heard it 15 times. And so my mom was like, oh, he'd be very interested in meeting Todd. Very, very, very interested in meeting Todd. Because again, I love Todd. And when I was a kid, this is how early it was for me. I was afraid of the little icon on the second wind. You know how like people, when kids, they're like afraid of monsters in their closet or whatever. I was afraid that the
creepy little thing, that little dude, that Saint.
I was Saint. I think it's Saint Peter. I want to. No.
It's
something the Martyr.
Saint Peter the Martyr is the figure's based off of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was afraid that he was in my closet going to kill me with the hatchet that was on his head. Okay, this is how deep this lore goes. Okay. So this woman and my mom walk up to me and my dad, and she goes, would you like to meet Todd after the show? And I swear to God, this is what my dad tells me. He goes, I'm sorry, ma'am. I have school in the morning.
Ugh.
So I was not able to meet Todd as a young one, let alone ever. Never been able to meet Todd. I've tried multiple times. Much like you, which is why it's very inspiring to hear that. Because I tried to set precedent, and my parents could intervene, and because they're trying to set precedent and go, you go to school in the morning, right? So they just kind of had to go, fuck.
They set it up. They told you, and you told them, and they had to honor that.
Exactly. And I respect my parents for being like that, but I know my dad and my mom, they're divorced. They'll still tell you the same thing. They're really pissed off about that. Because here it is, I'm 29, and I technically still haven't met Todd. There was another time that I virtually met Todd, and that's a fantastic story. It reminded me of your experience in '83. So it runs really deep for me. And I remember the day after that show, I remember this experience even better than the Todd show itself in middle of February '98. Going to preschool and telling the preschool teacher, whatever they're called, I saw Todd Rundgren last night. And they go, Todd who?
Of course.
And I go, Todd Rundgren. Everybody knows Todd Rundgren, right? And that's the rest of my life.
Yep.
Right.
Until I met Zach, which is very strange.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Well, here's the thing. Here's a couple little anecdotes. One is when it comes to kids, the name is very fluid around my house. It's not like they don't know who it is.
Yeah.
But when my daughter Miranda was I don't know, maybe 5, we got caller ID, and she loved to go to when the phone rang, she would run to the phone and tell us who it was because the readout would say who it was. She gets real excited. She goes to the kitchen. She comes out. She goes, it's just Todd Rundgren, and she walks by, and I'm like, no, that's not what that never happens. And I went back and I looked at it, and it was a call from True Green. TRUG, she got Todd Rundgren out of that. T Rundgren, that was pretty fun.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So, but when it comes to there's something else you said that tripped my brain a little bit. Oh yeah, Todd Who. One of the people who came to Toddstock came from England, and his wife didn't make the trip because it's expensive and she's not that much into it. So he came, and he said he talked to his wife, and they didn't start with, "Oh, he's gone to Todd Rundgren's birthday party," because they know they're going to go Todd Who. So what she did was they said, "Where's your husband?" "Oh, he's in Hawaii." "Well, like a vacation without you?" "No, he's gone to a birthday party." Well, so a family member? "No, not a family member." And they're like intrigued, like, what's the deal here? Where's he going to stay? Where's he going to stay at the guy's house? Like, are you going to go to the party at the house? And they go, no, he's staying in his house for a week. And then it doesn't matter anymore whether it's Todd Rundgren or not. It's just an intriguing story.
Yeah.
You walk people into it. And what I do as much as possible is if it comes up somehow, a song, a reference, I wear a shirt, something happens, and someone says, "Well, who's that?" I'll go, "When you ask me 3 times, I'll tell you." Because I don't want to get into it. I don't want to be the lead. I can start talking about it, and the eyes will glaze over. It's no good for anyone. And I'm so good at this now that I had known a guy for a year, and we had done dinner at my house, dinner at his house. We go to church together. We do all these things. I've known him for a year, and then somehow a Wizard or True Star came out of his mouth. Came out. He said, "That was my favorite album in college." And I said, "Stay right here." And I went to my car and I got my copy of A Dream Goes On Forever, the first volume of Billie Jean's book, for which material from Todd Data had been used. Parts that I advised him on. And I showed him this book, and he said, "Get out. That's not possible. How can this be?" And I said, "It's true, man." But and that's how
you're way ahead of me. I actually already had this pulled out, and I was going to start.
There it is. Now that one, I was so disappointed. I had galleys, and I saw a bunch of things that could have been corrected, but I thought there would be an editor involved, and it turned out there really wasn't a really online editor. So there's a lot of gaffes in there. But for the second volume, I did all the layout on it, and I really did some heavy editing, like getting the chapters, organized well and named right, and ending on a positive note instead of, the Utopia video studio burns down. We gotta end on a better note than that.
Yeah.
So I worked it around. I added the chapter on fanzines, and I tell a little more vague version of the Utopia Times saga. So a lot of stuff. And then when I was getting ready to do this art show, I kept finding more and more things, and it was very difficult to get that show set up and organized. And I'm overall happy with it, the way the room looked and how it worked out. But due to timings of things, fans' interest, I think one of the things that was the final straw that where I could realize I wasn't going to be able to finish the auction. I was going to do that Saturday after the show. Fantastic show, by the way. The Bowie show was like,
it was great, wasn't
it?
Fire.
And what's even better about that? All week, even months leading up to that, this might not make it into Toddcast. I hope you think this is funny. But we knew that they were going to have to finish on Heroes, right? It feels like
Makes sense.
the Bowie closer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I told either Zach and I, but we always have this Todd joke of, okay,
just something.
It's just what it's become, and it's cool. Like, I'm not hating on it. It's just like we have. Obviously, I'm not hating on it. Like, clearly, but it's just something. And I go, we can be heroes. I'm the king. And then sure enough, like I tried to beat the crowd. So that's when I saw you when I was leaving.
Yeah.
But as I was leaving, Todd started doing his verse.
Right.
And I go, here it comes, here it comes. And I go, yes, he's doing it. Yes. And I was like, I can leave now.
That's like that laugh in movies, you know. Woo!
Like are you talking about like the Wilhelm scream?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yes, I guess like that. Yes. That's what it's like for me now, where you're just like you
but
hear
the
it.
thing that happened after the show, because I had the ballroom, and I wanted people to come back to the ballroom and see the life size something anything album, life size Ziggy Stardust thing. But the band came to the bar, and it was like it was over. It was over. That just they came to the bar.
I didn't know you were doing that. You should have told me. I would have stayed.
It's just another one of those. It's one of those bizarre, mismatches. Doug usually gets the hotel ballroom, and they wouldn't give it to him.
Okay.
So I called them and said, is the ballroom available? They said, yeah. They said the price tag, and I choked a bit. But then I thought, no, I'll get it because then maybe the bands will come there or the party will come there. And Friday night they partied in the hotel lobby, and Saturday night the band came to the bar, and some people came back. I had probably 40 people back there, and we had some fun. I gave away some tchotchkes, and I did well. I would have easily tripled my money if I didn't have the heavy expenses and was able to sell all of my art pieces. But I've saved some of them out, and I'll probably auction them on eBay or something this week because I'm close to the full page ad, and I want to get it. I don't want to not do a full page ad this time.
Can I ask how much they're charging for that?
I'll tell you that in 1992, it was $10,000. I spent $10,000. I raised $10,000, but it cost $7,000 to raise it because I had to buy classified ads. I had to buy mailing lists. I had to send out postcards. It's a lot of that. So we ended up getting it by the column inch. I could get 100 names per column inch. So with $3,000, I got 3 inches. Then I did it again the next time. Again, I raised $10,000 and it didn't cost as much. So I got a quarter page color ad that time. And then each time after that, I've gotten to the half page ad and I just couldn't get it over the hump. Just didn't. And my motto was, it's their money and my effort. If people don't want it, if people want it, I'll do it. If they don't want it, I don't do it. So I'm not going to put my money into it, besides, whatever contribution I make. But, and this time, I'm really hoping that I don't have to put my money in. But we did an ad in Goldmine magazine with the first, 80 people. We did an ad in Mojo magazine, a quarter page ad in Mojo.
Yeah.
One with Jerry Garcia on the cover, nice quarter page placement with a few more names in it. And then each time I did that, I depleted my source. When I did it, the half page ad, the full page ad at that point, the list price was $80,000.
Oh, wow.
Now I have an agent that gets me a deep discount because he's a fan and he knows this is a grassroots endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
yeah, true. It does help.
It's a challenge, the prices are much lower now, actually, to tell you the truth. I think print is
I can see that.
is going out and online is going up, and
even $10,000 in 1992.
I would not have guessed that much. I would have said less.
I
would have thought maybe 2,000, maybe
2 or 3, yeah. But even adjusted for inflation,
the cover in '92 cost $40,000.
The cover of the magazine.
Yeah.
Damn.
But I'm sure it's not just here's $40,000 them on the cover. You've got to go through the process and know that you have an agent and know that you're somebody worthy of the cover and all that.
Yeah.
But there was a price tag on it. It was damn, didn't know that.
Yeah. Even for adjusted for inflation, $10,000 in 1992, 30 years later is double that, $20,000 today.
So I've got a really good deal. I'm happy with it. But I've had a lot of expenses that I hadn't planned on. Not the least of which was having to buy the the ballroom. But no regrets. That's just, I'm, like I said, you do what you can do, and then the universe, like with the logo contest, I was convinced that it would never be chosen, but I said, I got to do it. So I did. And what was cool about that, honestly, since I thought that nothing would come of it, I did exactly what I wanted. I did exactly what I wanted, the way that I wanted. It was very validating as an artist to have that recognized. And again, I try to operate from that standpoint. I'm not doing it. I have some parameters, but I need to like just do what the art wants. You do what the art wants.
Yeah.
And some stuff flies and some stuff doesn't. You just never know.
I love that. That brings to the broader point of why Zach and I have been doing this for the last few years.
Yeah, I feel like everything you've been talking about the last 40 minutes is like everything that we've talked about. Like we just literally were Todd freaks. We talked about Todd all the time. We're like, why don't we like record something and do something?
Turn the microphone.
And we
off.
don't care if one person listens or a million. Like who cares? Like it's for us, and it's been really cool.
If you're turning off of your true passion and your interest, that's the main thing. There's value there, and people who value that will pick that up, and if they don't, they don't. This is another funny thing. I do these things in Rolling Stone, and I'll hear like, oh, Rolling Stone sucks, Jan Winter sucks, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame sucks, and I'm going like, I'm listening. I start with, give me $5, give me $10, your name's in Rolling Stone, and then I listen to the complaints and the criticisms and all of it, and you know what I say at the end of everything? Give me $5 and I'll put your name in Rolling Stone. You don't have to do it.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it. I just don't know another alternative that has the clout that can be like, hey, let's make a statement. These fans support Todd Rundgren. That's it.
And I think I liked it the first time I heard about it because it harkened back to my dad's name is on the Todd 74 poster.
I missed it by this much.
Oh, no.
It's okay because they fucked up my dad's name. They put Barney Martin instead of Martin Barney.
Oh,
instead of Martin Barney.
We can blame Mark Nathan for that. Look up that name, Mark Nathan.
All right,
He's the one Mark Nathan.
Todd Nugget, another one.
That is definitely a Todd Nugget.
He was like 16 years old, showed up at Bearsville's door and just said, hey, what do you need? And they just, they need coffee, they need anything, he would come and do it. And then he ultimately was hired by Paul Fishkin, and he was part of the marketing team that was involved in AWATS and Todd. And it was his job to sort the cards.
Wow.
And alphabetize the cards for the names that went on that. But I didn't find out until 74 that Todd album had already come out.
Yes.
So part of what I'm doing is just playing catch up to that.
That's
but
cool.
I really, this is another thing about why this is so cool. The names make up the image of Todd. Mm-hmm. Without the names, there is no image. Without the image, there are no fans. So this is all tied together in this whole soup of what's a fan, what's a star.
Yeah.
And to me, you have to like become the star of your own life, and
that's an interesting point to me because like sometimes like that's like a very omnipresent factor to me with Todd shows, with knowing Todd, is he sees the same people at the same shows, stuff like that. And like with your experience of that you relayed about like, okay, I'm going to try this time. I'm going to show up with my photo, and then it becomes photos, and then it becomes multiple portraits, and then it becomes portfolio. And eventually you got to that point, and I love to hear that. But I do wonder sometimes if Todd ever got sick of his fans. But then I see things that just completely blow that out of the water. Like when Zach and I spent 2 years working on this Patronet episode. And then Zach acquired at like what was it, Zach? Like a estate sale.
Oh yeah, I went to an estate sale.
Todd post mailing people letters about their Patreon
Yep.
subscription, and I go, well, who does that? Who just, instead of emailing them and going, it's on the way, they go, hey, we're sorry for the delay. It's on the way. And he's reaching out to his fans because he knows that the community is his base.
I'll tell you this. There was an interview, and I just found the track on it. The audio was terrible, but it was an interview of a fan who came from England, interviewed Todd, just on a cassette, you know.
Okay.
I'm here with Todd Rundgren. It's Valentine's Day, 1980, or something like that. He said, what do you think about fan clubs? And he said the thing with fan clubs is not the central figure, the band or the individual that the band club is about. It's what degree of communication can the fans have with each other about the experiences they have.
Yeah.
And the other thing he said in that interview was, you know, anecdotally, what's a standout thing that might happen? He said, well, sometimes, you know, someone will bring me something that they made. You know, someone will draw something or create a piece and said it was inspired by him. And he can't believe that anyone would think to want to do that.
Yeah.
And it's just, it blows him away when these things come out. And that, I felt like that just went right to my heart. That now, I don't know if that's what he thinks about my art, but when I do wear the Utopia t-shirt, he always goes, he sees me and he goes, oh, great shirt. And I'll go, my eyes are up here, Todd. You know,
well, I think the crazy thing is that, like, all of us are huge music heads. You know, obviously Todd's our favorite, and, you know, I have lots of other favorites, but it's like, one of the main reasons why I gravitate towards Todd is there's so much to his music and the lore and all this stuff. Like, you know, a lot of bands just like, okay, they put out an album every couple of years and you listen to it, it's like whatever, you go see them, they play the greatest hits. But Todd, it's like a whole like concept of everything. Like, it's like I can't think, there's no other artist like that. I mean, there might be out there, but like to this magnitude, I don't think there is.
I've never concentrated on any artist long enough to know if it's like that.
Yeah.
But I think it's unique in a number of ways. Well, one is that he kept doing things and they kept getting out of print. So like when I came in 74, Naz, and Naz 3 were all out of print. Runt and Ballad were out of print because what I think happened was Albert Grossman was in the process of trying to get Bearsville going. He made a distribution deal with Ampex to distribute the record. So the first Runts and the first Ballads are on Ampex label. But then there was some kind of legal hassle or who knows what, and they didn't own the process of releasing the album. So when it wasn't, people forget this, it wasn't until CDs came out in 85 that you could just buy Runt or the Ballad of Todd Rundgren. Otherwise, you had to go to a cutout bin, you know, or buy a used copy. And then there's a bootleg copy of Runt that you can tell by the vinyl is like super thick.
Yep.
And the cover art is a little blurry.
Yep.
And the story I heard there was Todd just like supplied the master tapes to somebody in, you know, Holland. Just, oops, did those show up here? How did that happen? And that's why it's so clean that he.
Wow. Yeah.
And I have no way to verify it, and he doesn't even remember. But this was such a clean pressing, and it was so good. It's like he was tired of not being able to people to buy the music. You know, it sucks. You're making albums and people can't buy your back catalog.
Yeah,
there's Rundgren's Rack Job too, which is
the Rack Job was the one that turned into Back to the Bars. The idea originally was to re-release Runt and Ballad as Rack Job, and even to the point there was a cover design for it.
Yeah.
It's a cool ass cover. Honestly, I wish it had come out because I
love really standing in the record store. You know,
I love
good.
That. I love
so
that.
Good.
And then it came out to do Back to the Bars, which was, you know, most of those albums live.
Yeah.
Which I have a friend who that was his first Todd show, and he says the live versions are better than any of the studio stuff. Like those were that's so his teeth on it. You know, that's how he cut his teeth on. It's like, and it's right. There's a lot more energy, and you know, the live is different. But I just love it that you can do the studio thing you want, you can do the live thing if you want, you can have pop stuff if you want, you can like go down, in and out the chakras we go.
Oh yeah.
It's just it's an amusement park of fun, and that trips off another thing I want to tell you. This is a cool story, and I'm hoping this is another future path for me. I've tried it with a couple of other artists. It hasn't kicked yet, but I'm going to do it. So in 2012, 2012, I saw this picture that Doug Ford had taken of Todd that looked like the AWATS kind of look. His head he was sweaty and his hair was coming across the side. And he wasn't looking at the camera. And so I digitized it. I didn't know what I would use it for, but I digitized it. And then when we did the Cleveland Agora grand reopening, this coincided with my Rolling Stone project that year. And Mel couldn't come and couldn't do the party. So I said, I'll do the party. So I printed all this vinyl, 1,000 square feet of vinyl, made a bunch of life-size Todds. We made huge 8x16 version of Something Anything. I also did Back to the Bars, decked out the whole club. And another fan saw that digitized art and said, hey, can I make a jacket out of that? So what do you mean, you pay for it? Yeah, and then you pay me when you sell them? Yeah. And I said, yeah, go ahead. So she made them, and we started to sell them, and then it was like, no, shut down, you can't do this, Todd's face, not brand appropriate. And I vowed at that point, I said, my 6 words for that next year were, we'll never draw Todd Rundgren again. Wow. So I swore it off. So towards the end of whatever year it was, Ken Sharp is doing an article on Utopia in Goldmine magazine. And he found me through, whichever way. And he said, hey, do a project. Do one of your things where you collect money from fans and do a project. And we'll get Todd on the cover, and it'll be all the pictures will be included. If we buy ad space, they'll, pimp the story more. And I said, I'm sorry, I don't do that anymore. I don't. And I told him no. And a month later, he called me, and another month later, he called me, and then he started calling every week, and then he started calling every day, and then he started calling every hour. Come on, the deadline's up. What can we do? And I just had this weird idea, and I had seen it from this Dutch artist at some point. He draws these really crazy drawings, kind of cartoony, but it's like dozens of people in funny situations, and he'd never done a rock concert. So I thought, I'll draw the rock concert. I'll draw the fans. And somebody said, oh, well, his birthday's coming up. That's going to be another party. That's going to be money. He's got an album out. That's going to be fan money. He's got tour coming up. That's going to be money. No one's going to want to do this. And I said, you know what? I'm going to post it on Rundgren Radio. And if they want to do it, I'll do it. If they don't, I don't. I won't. I drew a little mock-up, posted it on a Monday night. Tuesday morning, I had the money for a full-page ad.
Wow.
And then I had to draw like 80 people in 3 days in order to get it into the magazine in time. And what I did was I drew the front row and the balcony, and then everybody else was just in shadow, right? So then I thought, well, that was kind of fun. So, and I knew Todd Stock, 65 was coming up. And I thought, well, I'm not going to go to Louisiana, but I'll draw the fans in there. You can go to Todd Stock in the drawing. And I opened up rows, and I started selling more of them, and it got up to like 150 fans. I had to draw 150 people in 3 days. So I did that, and then the Rundgren Radio party comes up at Labor Day pretty much every year, and I thought, okay, I'll keep adding them. I'll keep adding rows. People keep buying places. I'll just keep moving them in. And by the time it was done, I had drawn 250 people into the drawing, took the posters to Rundgren Radio party. And then people paid for the poster. So they paid to be in the ad. They paid for to be in to buy the poster. And like, that was fun. And that was life that I was willing to just do it, even though it was like, or I was willing not to. I just literally said, if they want to do it, I'll do it. And they did, and I did. And then I did it again for 50 years. I call it 50 years, 50 years of our hero, OH. Mm-hmm. And that was the last party. That was his 70th birthday. He happened to be in Virginia, where I live, and it turned into an amusement park. and there's the wheel in the middle, and there's the carousel, and there's the Viking ride, and there's, I call it pyramid golf, and there's the driving range, and there's the sidewalk cafe, and people bought, which section they wanted to be in. Again, 200 fans again, and great project. And I ended up giving Todd, like, I think by the time it was done, $2,500 left over from how much was collected and how much it took. So I did that for the Hotel California, and it was all set up. I had the drawing going. I've drawn the song. I just, Dark Desert Highway, Cool Breeze in My Hair, or Warm Smell of Calitas, and there's the person with the mission bell, and there's the person with Heaven Hell, and then there's the people that stab it with their steely knives. All the people are drawn into this courtyard. And it was set up that they were going on tour, and then COVID happened, and they canceled it all, and I got left holding the bag there. So, but that'll come around, because 50 years of Hotel California will happen in 4 years. So I'll
76, right?
Yeah. So I will resurrect that again, and I'll be able to do it with. I'll just put blanks on the faces and go pick this face, and click it, and this one costs $20, and this one costs $50, and if you want to.
So you've automated that experience.
I will. I haven't done it yet, but I will, and
that's pretty cool, though.
I want to continue to do that. I draw the fans. I draw what the stars see, and that's what the fans want to see. The fans want to see themselves in that mix. Every fan is just like a pixel of light, and
much like you tried, much like to that ethos we were talking about earlier, with the Todd experience of the fans being a part of the mix, the fans seeing themselves in the Todd music, whether it be lyrics or what have you. So that's very interesting that you've been able to bring that ethos to paper. I guess that's the way to put it. To the canvas.
My contribution is much more, when I was 16, I saw Todd, then I wanted to be Todd, be a musician and all that. And that never really came to any fruition. But the graphic arts have been, and computers have been my fortes. And to do this stuff is quite complicated. You have to know which person wants to be what song, and I track it all through a spreadsheet, and you've got a lot of collecting of money that needs to be tracked, and so there's a lot of whichever right brain stuff that has to happen. And I just shuttle back and forth between a creative realm and a digital realm. That so it's good to be ambidextrous with that. I honestly I don't know why I do it. I just have to.
Well, and it seems like that you've come to quite a few crossroads with that too. I mean, even recently, as of a decade ago, your 6 words, "I will never draw Todd Rundgren again." And yet you've been dragged back into it. Or like even 83 and before that, it's like, it's interesting that it keeps coming back to you.
Well,
That's a very interesting piece.
I sold all of my collection of the Utopia Times magazines, and then like 2 or 3 years later, the guys mailed them back to me and said, "Hey, these are just sitting in my attic. I really think you don't owe me any money back. I'm just going to send them back to you." That's what happened. Like with my albums, with my vinyl albums, I sold those in like 1989, raising money for Todd Data, which was the magazine that.
Zach, now's your chance.
There it is. Da-da-da. Now, which issue is that? Is that number 3? I can't see.
It is. Set 1, part 3.
Yep. Yeah, that was so much fun. I wanted it to be, of course, bigger, and it was business sound. It totally could have worked.
Wow.
But Todd wasn't interested in making an offer to his fans at that stage.
People ask me all the time, like, "Oh, well, does Todd know about the Toddcast?" And much to the greater realm of your story, I don't care. I just do it. I just do it,
Yeah.
and it's fine. And to Zach and I's point earlier, we do it because we love engaging in these things. Why not just have the microphone on?
You kind of have to anyway, because, and that's why I like the Run Good Radio parties, especially in Ohio. So Army brat, and I happened to be in Ohio
Okay.
at that time in high school. But I've just found the Ohio fans are just incredible. Incredible. Good to know. You can go up there and say something like, don't you think of anything but sex, and people know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I remember when I moved to Cleveland, I was wearing my Freezer Ass Off tour shirt. You ever seen that before?
That was in Texas, right? Wasn't it?
08. I don't know. I don't even know how that. Oh no, it was 08. It was pre-state. No, not start. Pre-arena like tour 2008 January. I think I got it. And I was walking around a Whole Foods and like the first like week that I moved to Cleveland, and some older gentleman came up to me and goes, "Is that a Todd Rundgren shirt?" And it's a very vague Todd Rundgren shirt.
Right.
It literally, just says Todd 08 on it. It's just a Stratocaster with a ass and bikini on it.
I remember
And he goes, "Is that a Todd Rundgren shirt?" And I go, "Oh, I'm in Cleveland. People just know when they see Todd, you're talking about Todd Rundgren."
Here's this was a kind of bizarre experience. So I'm in Charlottesville, been here since '85. Came here with someone, they left. I met someone here, we married, we have 2 kids, and now it's time for the kids to go to elementary school. So we're going up to the elementary school for the orientation, and here comes this guy down the hallway wearing a Utopia Redux shirt. It's the one with the ambigram on it. I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me, and it's like, how do you have that shirt? And he's looking at me saying, how do you even know who this band is?
Wow.
Well, and it turns out it's the guy who's married to Roger Powell's sister.
Wow.
Okay.
So
Okay.
he's from Virginia, Falls Church, I think, but his sister lives in Charlottesville.
Wow.
And that was just such a bizarre interchange because
That is yeah.
And then another one. It's kind of surreal things happened. So we did the Rainbow AWATS shirt for the AWATS live show, and when I walked into the hotel, guy came around the corner with the shirt on, and I said, "Hey, nice shirt." And he goes, "What?" I said, "That's a nice shirt." And I'm thinking, he's bought the shirt already. Whatever. He had no idea what he was wearing or why. Doug gave a shirt to everybody on the staff. So everybody in the staff wore that shirt all weekend long, and he literally didn't know who Todd was or what the shirt he was wearing or why.
Talk about a Todd Who moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just weird. Like my brain just can't process this information fast enough to know.
But what I was talking about earlier is somewhere I have a in this collection of thousands and thousands of images, I have a picture of Ruth Rundgren sitting in front of a portrait.
The portrait is of Todd by Harry, his father.
Okay.
Really?
And Harry was painting and, just doing different things. And Harry was colorblind, and his teacher knew he was colorblind. So he would do things and he would get help, like, is this color right, this color right? So he draws a picture of Todd with the rainbow hair. And the art teacher says, "Oh, you did a really good job there, Harry, but I think you got the colors wrong in the hair." Because, he figured he had done it wrong, but he hadn't, because that's really what the photo looks like.
Wow.
Damn.
That's really funny.
Yeah. Huh. Harry was a trip. He was, Ruth was amazing. Harry was amazing. Harry was a very, very, very smart, very strong presence of a person. I think it probably might have been a little oppressive in his household. Very opinionated. Made a great hash pie. And I would go up there, and when I visited them, they were living on Penarth Avenue, not the house Todd grew up in. His house was in Westbrook or something, a little farther away, but still up in Upper Darby.
Mm.
And Harry would like start a conversation about, well, look, if it comes down to you and me in a boat, it's going to be me, And I would say, well, you know what my goal in life is? Not to be in a boat with you. And he'd laugh,
Wow.
And so I didn't spend, excessive time with them, but probably a couple of trips just up and overnight. And when there was usually a Todd show somewhere nearby. The other personal side of things, not just always with music and whatnot. I decided when I turned 29 that I was going to cash in on my relationship with Ruth Rundgren. By this time, I had known her for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, and I had never taken advantage of, anything to do with like no backstage passes or any of that kind of stuff. I just, she doesn't need it. Other fans want it more.
Yeah.
And so I decided, I'm going to go up, I'm going to stay with Ruth, we're going to go see a show, and I'm going to go to the after, dinner after, and I'm just going to do it. Birthday present to myself. So I went up there, and Ruth said as we were leaving, just so you know, Todd and Michelle are a couple now, and that they're really not advertising that, but don't be taken aback by that. But I was really piqued my curiosity about that because I knew he had two kids by Karen Darvin already. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, wow, that's an interesting dynamic to be in. So we go to the show, he does the show. Afterwards, we're going out to dinner, and Todd drove this van, and we got in, Michelle's up there and Ruth and me in the back, and I don't know if anybody else was with us. But we parked the van, and we're walking down South Street in Philly, and it was a pretty mild December night, but Todd and Michelle were holding hands and looking in windows and window shopping, and it just like I could see they're just flat in love. They were just in love, and it impressed me so strongly. I realized I was not. I'd never had that, and I'd never had that in any relationship, but I was inspired by the brave aspect of living that you would, even when you've got kids with someone else and the relationship with someone else, that you would recognize love and cherish love. And so I just made a commitment to myself to do that. And that's when my other relationship ended, and I was just floating out there. And then that opened up door for me to meet my wife and gonna have kids. And I related that story to Michelle at one point, probably at Toddstock, or maybe on one of the Run radio shows. And then last year, I think in June, she was doing her podcast, and she tells a story from her perspective. And that's incredible. That just has nothing to do with music. That's just life. That's karma. I don't know what that is. Yeah, I just feel so glad for this positive influence in my life, either through the music or through the choices or whatever it is. But that's the point of the music, is to like figure out where you are, think about it. If you want to be there, stay there. If you're not there, get there. It's just a very much self-determination aspect to it. But then you never know what's the universe going to give back. Yeah. You don't know. It might be nothing. It might be something terrible. And there's a part. Have you seen the Tepte video?
Yeah. I learned how to rewind VHSs when I was a kid, because I watched that over and over and over again.
There's a part where he takes psychedelics and he ends up in that strange music.
Yeah.
And there's that weird conch that comes up.
And then it goes, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah. And then later, he goes back to it, demanding that it give him the jewels. And he puts his hand in it, and he pulls out this hand grenade.
And then it comes in, and they start playing Determination.
Yeah. That scene is so powerful to me, because it's very dangerous to expect the universe to deliver.
Yes.
but sometimes you have to do things for it to happen. It's so mixed up together with itself that it's not going to happen if you don't do it. But if you do it, that doesn't mean it's going to happen either. You take your chances, you know. You just take your chances.
Is it weird that, and this is like I don't know if weird is the word. Like, here Zach and I are 29, and then here you are at your age, and so many other people are at their age, and we all have similar experiences with the music.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really know. It was never planned, right? I mean, I'd like to think that I know Todd enough that he wasn't.
Maybe it was totally planned, and we're just along in the stream. But the other thing is the idea of the multiverse is becoming very popular these days, and time is just things are all happening at the same time, and you jump over a groove in a track, and in this one you did that, and this one you did this. Maybe we're all.
That if there's anything that I think that if there's anything that I've learned after 29 years of paying attention to this person, and then the last 2 years of flipping through these articles, and the dozens and dozens of hours I've seen of interviews of his, I don't think it's planned. I think it just kind of occurs, and he's really good at exemplifying life.
Yeah.
Through his art. And those who are along for the ride, they either get it or they either get on the ride or they don't. And I think that goes more with the Todd Who thing.
Yeah.
Also, if you're just ubiquitous, you're everywhere. Like, Bruce Springsteen had a following and did Born in the USA, and then suddenly everybody's a Bruce Springsteen fan. That's like,
okay,
kind of devalues what that is to each person who really knows it. But Todd found out pretty early that if you really, lay your life down in those grooves, you're going to personalize it, make it real, make it you. Why make someone else's album? Why make something just because it's popular? Yeah. But what's interesting to me is like the music is not so bizarre that it couldn't be popular.
Right.
And we're talking about David Bowie.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, when I were talking about Bowie always got away with it. Bowie was like, he was weird and it was okay. And Todd, he did, he started out like normal, He started out, maybe, kind of Beatles, maybe kind of Euro, but he still wanted to be a commercial success. And he said he wanted to be the Elvis of the 70s.
Yeah.
And then he decided that he didn't want to be the Elvis of the 70s. And he could make a living doing the productions and then do whatever he wanted. And that's really solidified his base because they know it's coming from him. It's not,
yes.
It's not.
And that's the difference between
carbon copy. It's not,
And to me, like, that's the difference between a TR and a David Bowie is because Todd went out and did it himself, much to that point that you were making earlier about, like, get out there, determination, get it done, do yourself. But then he also knew to keep a close-knit group to help him accomplish that, i.e. Utopia, and then other people, And David Bowie was the best thing about David Bowie was also the people that he surrounded himself.
Yeah.
But he did it in different ways.
Yeah.
Than Todd did.
I mean, his first hit was Space Oddity. So he came out of the box, and of course he looks so strange. His eyes are dilated and different colors, and he developed the different persona right away, and then you knew that. And Todd's personas, it's like Bearsville just wanted him to do something, anything part 2.
Yeah.
And I don't think they. Now, Mark, I've had a couple conversations with Mark about it, and he said that no, we got it. We wanted him to be out there and do that. It's like I don't think you really did. I mean, even to the point that Albert Grossman, when Todd did a cappella, hated it. Canned it.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Because it initially was going to come out on Bearsville. Yeah.
And then Albert, he died, and Warner Brothers inherited it.
Yeah.
And then they kind of blackmailed Todd into signing with them in order to release a cappella.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then
I hadn't heard the blackmail part.
They said, we'll release a cappella if you sign with us. And they ended up with a deal where he said, I'll make it. If you release it, it means it's one of the 3 albums that we agreed to. If you don't want it, then it all reverts to me and I'll release it. But then he did Nearly Human and Second Wind on those deals. And I think there's different opinions on it, whether or not a cappella was one of the 3. But then he did Up Against It was the one after Second Wind. And I kind of felt like that was the contractual obligation. Okay, we're going to finish this deal and part our ways.
Oh,
That's
wow. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, and I think that Warner Brothers did a good job in marketing those albums. They're looking back on it through the eye of nostalgia that I have. It does seem like they were just trying to seep everything they could out of him at that point. And it probably helped in their benefit that he was doing more of the adult contemporary stuff with like Nearly Human at that time, as opposed to like an acapella or a Second Wind.
Well, the thing about a cappella was like 2 years later, Bobby McFerrin came out and a cappella was the bomb. And it was like, well, Todd already
did that.
he already did that.
Yeah.
So, and that's where it's been the story of Todd's life that, this Todd album is weird, not good, not like the last one. And then 6 months later, another one comes out. Oh, this album's no good, not like the last one. And then,
or even with being ahead in the video sphere. There was a story in Cleveland.com that I read last week when they interviewed him for the Celebrating David Bowie show. That I had never heard before, where in '79, David Bowie came and visited him at Macaulay because he was interested in the video sphere. And he had overheard Todd's... Todd, you remember that guy you're ripping off? Well, he's up in New York. Go visit him. He'll give you a tour. And then Todd, being the businessman at that time, because he spent a lot of money.
A lot of money.
A lot of money on that.
Money went to the video deal.
Yep. And shout out to every book that I've ever read about that. They're always like, you don't understand how much money he was putting into it. Analog video tape was not cheap. But he was trying to sell David Bowie on, okay, so you see the stuff now. When can I get you up here? And David Bowie was non-committal. And that really irked Todd because he was just trying to return his investment. So even in that space, he was still ahead of the curve.
Well, that's another thing, as I mentioned earlier, about the technology and where he's tried to go, and it just really hasn't timed out because he did Laserdisc in those days. They were trying to get Laserdisc going because VHS was out, Beta was out.
Yeah.
Then the Laserdisc came out.
I have that Grok Gazer on Laserdisc.
Me too.
And that was another one. They started to do all that, and the guy that he was his programming partner,
David Levine.
He died in the middle of that whole project, and there's another one that just went away. But Laserdisc didn't work. Then he did the CDR thing. That didn't work. He tried Patronet. That was too advanced for his time.
Yeah, my dad made a joke recently. Is Todd broke, or is he just the biggest capitalist in the world and doesn't want us to know? And I go, honestly, man, and this is my dad and I are joking, right? And I go, honestly, man, I think he's still broken in debt from Patronet. Because at that time, he was touring 10 months out of the year.
I don't know from any facts. I'm not privy to any information like that. But when Michelle was on Rundgren Radio one time after they bought the house in Hawaii, he sold the future royalties from Bat Out of Hell.
Yeah.
In order to fund Patronet and buy that land on the island. And she said, he will be touring forever to pay for that.
Yeah.
And then he's resolved to that too. He's really a very incredible performer. Yeah. I think he's 74 and he's still bringing it on stage. And I find this phenomenal. The show that we saw, high energy show we saw, they had done it in Chicago the night before. Then they had a night off, and then they're going to go, and it's going to go to Massachusetts. They're going to do 31. They said 31 times. And when you look back at his tour history, every year it's hundreds of shows per year.
Yeah.
And even now, still, because there was like a couple of stints out with Daryl Hall. There's the Bowie thing. There was another round with Unpredictable.
Yep.
You know, he's just out all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I think when COVID happened and things had to shut down, I remember thinking this must be a really weird experience for Todd. He's just chilling in Kauai. I mean, what a place to be when you have to be in lockdown, right?
Yeah.
But I remember looking at one of my friends and I go,
that was very frustrating when he finally did the virtual tour thing where they
Honest Truth
in Chicago and
yeah, God, I forgot about that.
They did the shows tailored for Virginia Beach, tailored for
Cleveland.
Yeah, Cleveland, and that would have been an incredible show to see live. I really miss that I couldn't have done that. I hope that was successful for them, but many of the things have to do with the timing and the investments. And there was a point where when they were doing Adventures in Utopia, they wanted to have a TV channel and make episodes, the whole video thing, and they bought space on some kind of RC satellite, and it got lost in space.
Wow.
It's like literally disappeared. So how much you think that set you back?
Yeah, really.
And then the Utopia Video Studio burned down in like 1985 or so.
Yep.
God, just so much heartbreak around all that.
So with that segue, obviously you've seen Todd a lot. Best show you think you've seen, short of the first time you saw him?
Well, if you take that one as a category by itself, a couple of standouts. He did a concert at Hiram College outside of Cleveland.
Yeah.
This is 82, 83. It was a 500-seat auditorium at a college. Todd solo, like you were in a living room with him. Incredible. Just him, guitar, piano, couple of backing tracks, but mostly just him, either with the guitar and singing, or with the piano and singing. Just incredible show. A Wizard, a True Star live was the concert I thought I was going to go see in 74. But he did Utopia.
Right. But
to do a Wizard, a True Star live, and we were on our feet for the whole time, incredible experience live. The Raw show was incredible. I mean, come on.
I didn't even think of that. Wow.
Each one for the first bit was just because it was Todd's Utopia, then the second show was Raw, then the third show was the Back to the Bars set, but it was after Back to the Bars had already been done in New York and LA. It was in Atlanta. That was incredible. Each time was different. But then when I moved back up to Cleveland after college, I saw him like 10 times in 2 years because he always played Cleveland every show.
Yeah.
When they did the Swing to the Right tour, I saw it in Youngstown, Columbus, Cleveland, Akron, and Toledo. I saw that tour 5 times.
Damn.
And they were touring it, and Bearsville wasn't going to release it. They were like on the road with it, trying to get people to get interested in it so Bearsville would release the album. It took a year.
Yep.
And and it's probably been, I know it's more than 50 shows and probably, I couldn't even tell you how many tours. Never been disappointed. But what I found now is the shows I want to go to are where my friends are, and it's usually in Ohio.
Oh wow. Okay. I know that feeling. I
That's
know that
what I
feeling
want to
very
do.
well.
I want to see a show with my friends, and I want to be with my friends, and that's why the Rundgren Radio thing just works so massively well. I've been to shows in a couple other towns. When my daughter took me to see the Individualist, and it was Individualist, and it was half like the hits and half Individualist.
Yeah, the 2019 tour. Yeah.
Yeah, and she took me to that for Father's Day, and she had never seen Todd. But she would like, oh, I know this song. Oh, I know this song too. Oh, I know this song. And then she said, how old is he? Because he's like, he's running back and forth, up and down and everywhere. And I said, that was special. That was that first set of that show. Best. He told the stories. He did it basically chronologically.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Very nice. And he
And
seems to maybe have reconciled a little bit with doing his older material finally.
it definitely seems that way. It doesn't it? Compared to, it's a far cry from like when my parents saw him in '95. He was touring the actual Individualist album, and he was playing at the Cincinnati Zoo, and people were going, "Play Hello, It's Me," and he goes, "I'm not playing that fucking song. If you think I'm gonna play that song, get the fuck out." And then people booed him. People booed him, and all the way out. So it's definitely even strange now. Like when I saw him on any of the Beatles shows, where I'm like, oh man, you're really just hamming it up and playing "Hello, It's Me" and "I Saw the Light." I'm like, okay, man, like that's not what I'm here for. Zach and I always talk about this. I'm like, because I'm the weirdo that cried during the Individualist show when he played "Fair Warning." I like tears just everywhere because I love that. I love that song. When I was an artist, I covered that song. So like that's what I'm there for. I'm not there for
deep cuts.
I'm there for the deep cuts, and like even playing "Fade Away," I'm like, I'd rather hear something else off of that album. I'll hear "Bag Lady" before I hear "Fade Away." Like I need to hear like deep cuts. Zach and I did an episode once about our perfect what was it, Zach?
It was our perfect set list.
Perfect set list. What our perfect set list would be for
that's a good episode.
Show. That was good. Yeah, there was a lot of prep behind that. So stuff like that. It is interesting now, just to hear him come out and do that, and enjoy it too. Ham it up.
It seems he does. There was a time when he finally did it on Letterman because he was on Letterman like 5-6 times. He finally did it. He finally did it, and Letterman came out and said, "Now, was that so hard?"
Wow.
And Todd said, "After 30 years of doing this song, you get it. You're doing the same song over and over again. You got Wayne Newton will do Dankeschön every night, But
let's talk about Something Anything 50 one more time, and then end the show.
Yeah, we can wrap it. It's very simple, SA50.rocks, and you get it as little as $5 and go up from there. Different gifts for different levels. I'm still waiting for the stitch art to come in so I can start supplying people with the jackets that they deserve. It'll be in the December issue. I am told that it will be the greatest rock bands of all time issue. The teaser cover shows Dave Grohl on the cover, but I don't know if that's going to come to fruition. That would be cool, I think. I think Dave Grohl, I'd love to hear what Dave Grohl has to say about Todd Rundgren.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
He's got to be a fan. There's just no way he cannot be a fan of Todd. What will happen is the final deadline is November 1st. I have to seal the ad art. What will happen in the next 2 weeks? People will say, "I haven't heard about this one. Can I get in? Can I get in?" And I'll keep squeezing names in, and that's fine.
Okay.
I'm going to be left with quite a bit of merchandise, and I'll continue to distribute that. It just won't be, you won't get your name in the ad and a shirt. You'll be able to get the shirt. And then every time Something Anything project, 50 years of Something Anything is advertised, it's also an advertisement for Fernando's anyone, because it's the same logo used on both products.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that cross brand opportunity there. I think he's probably already moving on to his next thing, because Fernando did.
He's always doing something, right?
Ram album recreated, and I'm sure he's got his other things going. The guy is just got so much energy.
He's put out like multiple albums with Carmine Appice. It's crazy.
Yeah.
He's phenomenal talent and energy, and a fun guy, and I feel very fortunate that he saw the value in the design, and that's what I'm gonna continue to do, is to design things and try to do the fan interactive things. I'm doing right now. I'm doing 50 years of American Pie. It's also at my website. If you want to be the jester in American Pie, you go in and you buy the spot, and I'll draw you into the drawing. You guys will probably just start ending up in that stuff anyway, because I think you guys are cool. I love that you're young and you're into it and you get it. It's very good to know that the music can survive that way.
Yeah.
And it's important that we continue to do it and talk about it and love it. And so I will, but I'm going to try to stick by my guns. This is it for my Todd projects.
You said that a decade ago.
I did.
6 words, man. I will never draw Todd Rundgren again, or whatever.
I haven't, and
you haven't, but you're involved again.
His feet appear in the Music Plays Forever drawing. He's standing on the raw pyramid up there. It's his feet.
Oh wow, yeah.
So, and I like this. I call what I do crowd interactive art. I really want to engage people. COVID has just kicked my butt, and as everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
But people are getting back out and getting together, and I love doing the dioramas. I mean, I did when they were touring the Beatles. They did the White Album, but it was like, I can't do anything with the White Album. I did Abbey Road, so I made a life-size version of Abbey Road without.
Oh, that was you? Yeah. I have a picture with Todd. How did you do that, by the way? Because the way that
Photoshop is just, you open up the art and you just start, painting things out. And then I isolated the Beatles and made the Beatles cutouts. And then there was one of each of the replacement people. And the company that I work out does large format graphics. So we can print things that are, 10 feet wide and as long as you want. And it's a giant, like a t-shirt transfer process. You make a reverse image of it, and then you put it through a heat press, and it transfers just the way that like a heat transfer does for a shirt, but it does it on fabric that's as big as you want. So getting it scaled right is quite the challenge.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you did such a good job of like mirroring the John Lennon image with him in the white suit.
What happened was that is John Lennon. I put Todd's head on it and I put it in a black suit instead of a white suit.
Yeah, it's like Tepte era black suit, which is amazing to me. That's why I love. That's why I had to get a pic. Okay.
That was fun. And then they were going to do Abbey Road the next year, and they got shut down for COVID again. So I've still got that display. But that's a classic album. It's never going to go out of style. Ziggy Stardust is never going to go out of style.
Wow.
Something Anything is never going to go out of style. So I'll pull them back out. They store easily. They transport easily. They put up easily.
Yeah, and I know that you gave these to Fernando, right?
Well, talk about some weird experiences. That was in Cincinnati, and it was
I was there.
The first Nash show.
This is when people were crowd surfing with the Todd print. And I'm right there in the middle trying to take a picture because I thought nobody would ever believe me if I tried to tell them that people were crowd surfing at Todd.
Already we didn't know.
That's great.
There it is.
That was so fun.
Yeah.
And that worked out really well too. The way it went in the hotel.
Yeah, it's great.
Downstairs.
And we had no idea about that event until day of. We had like heard it through word. Like I think we were at work, right, Zach?
We were at work, yeah.
And someone was like, "Oh, you're going to the Todd Rundgren event tonight," and we're like, "The what?" They're like, "Yeah, there's Todd cover bands," and we're like, "The what?"
Yeah.
And it was sold out, and we showed up, and we just came out.
Just do it.
Yeah, we just came out
showed up.
hat in hand, and we were like, "Please let us in."
Yeah.
And they let us in for a nominal fee. And I remember walking in and seeing that and going,
"Oh, it was life changing.
Where?
It was amazing."
I was like, wait, is that Todd over there? Like, Todd cut out, but it's John Lennon. And then walking in and hearing Time Heals, I was like, this is amazing. So I'm glad that you're able to share that experience. And I'm glad that was you that had those, man. That's awesome. So,
Yeah,
all right, well, throw
I want to
money.
continue to do that. I want to continue to celebrate. So I do a thing where I'm supporting a non-profit rock radio station in Charlottesville. And it's an independent station. They play anything from the 50s to the 80s. And I made a little commercial support commercial for that. I just call it crowd interactive art, celebrating classic rock.
I like that.
I'm stuck in the 70s, unapologetic. Songs that I like, really, they sound like they're from the 70s, even if they're new. It's great. It was a great time for my life. It was fantastic music, and going to do everything I can to keep it alive, because the music will live forever. So it will. Yeah. I'm just so encouraged by you guys, doing what you do. It's fantastic.
We really appreciate you coming on and being excited to talk to us too. Yeah. That is really heartening. Yeah, but you heard it here, folks. Throw money. SA50.rocks.
Yep.
That's it.
And you have until November 1st.
Yep.
Now that I know that, I'm gonna have to crush this editing and get it out long before then. So
appreciate that. Yep. Appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we appreciate you coming on. I could have done this for another an hour. I'm sure you have.
In another week, I might be recovered enough to go long on it. But maybe we can think about another topic, another zone in or something.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Absolutely,
awesome.
That'd be great. And you got me worried about being old now, because I was talking to Mel earlier too, and she was like, "Oh, I've had to lay low since the weekend," and I'm like, "What? That was just another weekend for me. I drink like that all the time." And but now y'all got me worried.
What happens is your elasticity, it just takes longer to bounce back. Just it's like the recharge bar. You take a few hits, you recharge up, bam, you're young, it just comes back to full strength. You get on in years. It's just the cost of getting old. I'll take it. But in my brain, I'm still 15 years old.
Yeah, I respect that. I'm just being funny, but it's definitely putting things in perspective for me.
Yeah.
I have some wisdom about how to gauge my reactions into responses and not take things so personally, and also understand you suffer the slings and arrows and that happens. But generally in my spirit, I'm still 15, 16 years old. Just love what I love, and it's so important. Interest and caring, passion. You gotta have something. There's no point in just trudging through everything without that. And I think Todd sings about that. He sings about, and that was what happened with Utopia is Here, because I took Utopia Redux and I took the 92 out and I put an eyeball in there, and it said that pyramids, spheres, and obelisks. But the mind's eye is what gives value to everything. And you go ahead a millennia, Utopia exists, whatever it is, no starvation, no hunger, no death, whatever you want to envision that. It's still going to be circles, squares, and triangles, and the colors mixed together. And when you look at it, you put the value in it and you understand it. And one person could look at the world and think it sucks. Another person looks at the world, same street, walks down the same street and thinks this is wonderful. It's the same world. Mm-hmm. So the way you perceive it and the way you train yourself, you have to have a discipline to understand, focusing on the important things and not getting distracted by ego, not getting distracted by negative feelings. You know, you need to take the good and leave the bad and be a real man.
There you go. Oh, okay. That's fantastic.
I love it.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much, Bill. We'll let you go.
Thank you, Bill.
I love what you're doing, and I'm going to be diving into it, and I'm sure we're going to see each other more.
Yes.
I appreciate you, Bill.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'll kick you out of here and make it easy for you, all right?
All right. Bye.
All right.
All right,
Bill.
bye. Damn. It's fucking crazy.
God, he gave some great fucking stories. Holy fuck.
Yeah, what a life, man. It's kind of weird. Because it's not different from like what I go through. Like what we've talked about on the Toddcast, right?
I feel like he's going through the path that we are going through, and he never got like the ultimate glory, but
he did.
He definitely did.
I think he just didn't get it.
Like if he didn't explain himself, we'd be like, dude, you're crazy. Like you literally are on his t-shirts, you've met him, you've hung out with his parents. It's like
I think, and maybe this is me projecting, I think he got it in a way that he never anticipated to get it. And maybe that's the true gift, because that's how I try to convince myself about my experiences with Todd.
Yeah, I mean,
and how it's okay. Like it used to be like my goal, be like, I just want Todd to know that I'm out here and I'm down. Like I'm 100% down. Like I've grown up and I've grown into this music. And his experience was the same way, but he got to do it chronologically. And we have to do it through the lens of it's already there. So I think that's the difference. It's very interesting story. I'm curious, because that's how it is for a lot of those guys, you know? Some of them are just like Todd, I don't know. It's very weird, man. Very strange feelings. I'm glad that he exists, and I'm glad that he wanted to talk to us.
Yeah.
Because that's why I do it right there. Like, it's cool that we've gotten to talk to John, and he's cool with us. It's cool that we've gotten to talk to Gil.
But like that's the soul.
But the Rogers and the Bills of the world, and the Elliots too. That's what makes it cool, man. And I like the fact that it's not intentional. You know, it's like with. Have you ever seen the Germs movie, the biopic? What We Do is Secret?
No.
Darby crashed from the Germs. It was very intentional. He wanted to build a cult around the band. Todd found out early enough later on, early, but in the grand scheme of things, or later on in his career, but early enough in his career because of how expansive it is, that wasn't what he wanted. And he just did it for himself. And that's why we like Todd, right?
Yeah.
So these fans, they couldn't get the ultimate prize of being Todd or hanging out with Todd or making music with Todd. They did the shit that they wanted to do. Start a website. Paint pictures of Todd. Stuff like that. Start a Toddcast.
Yeah.
And that's what's fucking sick.